Austin was supposed to become the new comedy capital of America, not New York, not Los Angeles, Austin. The promise was simple. Comedians were leaving Hollywood, escaping censorship, and building something raw and independent in Texas. Rogan moved there. Tony brought Kill Tony there. The mothership opened, and suddenly every young comic with a backpack and a dream thought, this is where I need to be. But a few years later, the question feels very different. Because instead of looking like a creative revolution, Austin comedy is starting to look like a kingdom. And every kingdom has a king, or in this case, a few kings: Joe Rogan, Tony Hinchcliffe, the Comedy Mothership, Kill Tony. And if you want to make it in that world, the criticism is becoming harder to ignore. Do you actually have to be funny, or do you just have to fit the format? Is there hope left for Austin comedy and Kill Tony? When Joe Rogan moved to Austin, it felt like a huge cultural shift. Comedy had already become deeply connected to podcasts and live streams. And Rogan was not just a comedian anymore, he was one of the most powerful media figures in the world. So when he opened the Comedy Mothership in 2023, Austin suddenly had something most cities do not have: a comedy club with global attention. Then there was Kill Tony, a show where unknown comics put their name in a bucket for a 1-minute set. It is brutal, chaotic, and sometimes hilarious. In a comedy world where most gatekeepers are hidden behind agents, Kill Tony says, "Put your name in the bucket. Let's see what happens." That is powerful. But there is a darker side. When one show becomes the fastest path to attention, comics start asking, what would Tony laugh at? Instead of, what is my voice? This is where the scene gets complicated. Kill Tony is not just a show. It is a format. And that format is great for YouTube clips, but is it great for comedy? Instead of learning timing and storytelling, you learn how to be roastable. You learn how to say something shocking quickly to get that clip. It is like comedy turned into a talent show where the talent is partly your jokes, and partly how entertaining your humiliation is. Then there is the bigger issue, the Rogan orbit. Joe Rogan has done more than almost anyone to bring attention to stand-up. That is just true. But when one person has that much influence, it changes the psychology of an entire scene. Comics know whose podcast can make them famous overnight. And that is the strange irony. A scene built around free speech can still create its own kind of censorship, social censorship, where everyone understands the rules. Can you make fun of the Austin scene itself? Can you make fun of Rogan's influence? That is the real test. Free speech does not mean much if everyone is brave in the exact same direction. A lot of Austin comedy now seems trapped in a very specific loop: anti-woke jokes, cancel culture, and predictable political punchlines. The problem is not that comedians have opinions. The problem is when the dangerous comedy starts to feel predictable. If the room already agrees with you, are you really being edgy? That is where Austin sometimes feels less like rebellion and more like a new establishment, a place where everyone says they hate gatekeepers while waiting for them to like them. But here is where I do not want to be unfair, because Kill Tony is not dead. It is still huge. It still creates viral moments and gives unknown comics exposure. Sometimes a random comic says something strange, personal, and hilarious, and for 1 minute you can see why the show became so big. That is the magic of it. The danger is treating it like the center of comedy. It should be one door, not the whole building. Comedy needs more than one flavor: weirdos, storytellers, and absurdists. So is there hope? Yes. But only if Austin stops confusing popularity with health. A scene can be famous and still be creatively narrow. The hope is in Austin becoming bigger than Kill Tony. More rooms, more styles, more risk, more comedians willing to criticize the scene they are inside. Real comedy is not just saying the forbidden thing. Sometimes it is saying the true thing. And the true thing might be this: Austin did not escape the old gatekeepers. It created new ones. When Rogan and Tony helped turn Austin into a destination, they gave comics hope. But now the scene has to answer. Is it a place where comedy grows or where it becomes content? Content wants clips, comedy wants truth, content wants a reaction, comedy wants a voice. Content asks, will this go viral? Comedy asks, is this actually funny? If Austin can remember that difference, then there is hope. But if every comic is just trying to impress the same kings, then everyone is afraid to bomb honestly. So what do you think? Is Austin still the most exciting scene in America? Tell me in the comments and subscribe for more deep dives into internet culture.